Hello everyone, this is part 13 of What If Naruto Had a Proper Teacher, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Team 7 rocketed toward the southeast. Their speed was much faster than a normal team's travel rate. Chakra was constantly being pushed through their system to eke out more velocity. Even with their weights deactivated when they pushed off a tree limb, it badly scarred or knocked the branch clean off. Naruto relayed the information over their shortwave radio. The distress signal came from Hana Inuzuka. She's Kiba's older sister and was just promoted to Jonin. She has 3 Chunin under her command and they were on a B-rank mission to investigate what happened to one of our villages near the border. The threat level was suspected to be primarily bandits, but back up a few Chunin and Genin level missing nin. Sakura frowned. We need to get there in time. Kiba is just now finally recovering from his mom's death. If Hana dies it would be awful. Team 7 all agreed with that sentiment. Team 7 didn't socialize with other teams very often, but they had formed a bond with Team 8. No one wanted to see another tragedy happen to the Inuzuka family. They poured on the speed, eating up the miles at an astonishing rate. Naruto filled them in with additional details. Choji's older cousin Chaku was a Chunin on the squad. The rest of Hana's team was filled out by individuals that Team 7 didn't personally know. One of the squad specialized in Kaiten ninjutsu and the other was a taijutsu specialist. Hana herself had some medical ninjutsu, was a beast in combat like all Inuzuka, and had 3 ninken with her. If they ran into trouble it meant that there were Jonin-level threats in the area. The landscape blurred past them as they traversed Hai no Kuni, Land of Fire. Team 7 didn't know it, but they completed the trip from Konoha to a border village faster than any shinobi squad in history. As they approached within 20 miles they slowed the brutal pace down. Naruto summoned a swarm of cage bunshin to scout out in all directions. One of the bunshin soon found traces of Hana's squad. The terrain in this area was a combination of swamp and forest. Hana's team had holed themselves up in one of the few rocky areas that were drier than the rest of the landscape. Rain clouds could be seen in the distance. While the border region with Mizu no Kuni, Land of Water, didn't have as much rain as a Megakure no Sato village hidden by rain, it did take second place in the elemental nations for yearly rainfall. The clone let out a bird whistle followed by a slightly higher pitched one. From near the cave the required hawk screech response was given. The clone had made contact with Hana's squad. It had Naruto's Kakashi-trained eye for traps and easily avoided several of them as he approached the cave. A surprised and limping Hana remarked, "I didn't know an Anbu squad was in the area. Good timing. Are there any enemy forces nearby?" Hana shook her head. "They are all in the village. I am a clone, I will relay the information to my squad," and with those words the clone dissipated. It didn't take long for Team 7 to arrive. Kakashi had Hana report what had happened. A couple of days ago a civilian arrived in an interior village with a horrible account of what happened. An army of bandits numbering over 50 took the village by storm and killed almost everyone. Hana swallowed thickly. She was a hardened shinobi, but even her voice had a catch in it when she explained further. Except they didn't kill everyone, they left some survivors. Children. Naruto felt uneasiness spread over his body. They are still alive. Hanging in cages within the village. As best as we can tell they have been like that for days and they aren't being given any food or water. They were dying in those cages. They were trapped hanging in the air without anything to eat or drink. Hana had to pause in her recount before continuing. When we saw this I immediately ordered the attack. It was stupid. It wasn't just bandits with a few Chunin, there were at least 2 Jonin-level shinobi and over a dozen Chunin. Naruto felt rage bubble up in his gut. The flash of Kyuubi chakra was quickly suppressed, but not before Hana stepped back. "Naruto, I thought there was a familiar scent in the air." Kakashi didn't care if Hana and her squad knew that Team 7 was their relief. He trusted Inoiki's screening program. He did have an issue with Naruto's control. While it was unlikely a sensor shinobi was in the area actively looking for them, if there was one they would have detected the chakra flare. Sakura asked, "Where is the rest of your team?" Hana looked down. "Chaku is in the back. Arata and Wakasa didn't make it." Hana blamed herself for the botched attack. She and 2 of her ninken had been wounded. Chaku had to use one of the Akamaiki food pills and would be useless for the next few days. We fought clear on our own, but if they had bothered to hunt us down we would have been dead by now. Kakashi asked for more details. Hana described the attacks and jutsu used. None of the shinobi had worn a forehead protector or had anything that signified their allegiance. The vast majority of their jutsu, however, was Suiten, which strongly implied they were from the Mist Village. Kakashi turned to Naruto and asked, "Thoughts?" Naruto was still thinking about the kids who were suffering and had to concentrate for a moment before answering his sensei. This is a false flag operation. No way would the new Mizukage be stupid enough to provoke a fight with us. The massacre of the village and the open torture of children are designed to incense our nation. They also let at least one civilian go, so rumors of this event are already going to be making their way across Hai no Kuni, Land of Fire. Kakashi nodded. Solutions. Naruto forced his anger aside and modulate his voice. We kill them, rescue the children and take a few alive. Through interrogation we can hopefully figure out who is behind this. And who do you think is behind it? Not enough information available to make a decision. It could be Iwa, who still may want vengeance. It could be Kumo, who wants to see us weakened. It could even be minor villagers who want to see Konoha shinobi off fighting a war which would allow them to take missions that normally would have gone to us. It may even be those who oppose the new Mizukage and are hoping to have her thrown down. I concur. Naruto leave behind half a dozen clones to make sure the area is safe. Sakura layer some genjutsu in the area. Hana, you and Chaku will stay here while we deal with the enemy. Hana knew Kakashi's reputation. She also knew about the slaughter of the Iwa shinobi. While she was humbled at the idea that another squad could resolve the issue without reinforcements where her squad was crushed, she mostly cared about the children being freed. Being caged like that was an anathema to an Inuzuka. Good luck, she said as Naruto quickly made the clones and Sakura efficiently weaved an advanced form of Magen, Kokoni Arazu no Jutsu, demonic illusion, false surroundings technique. Sakura hesitated for a moment and then tossed a scroll to Hana. What's this? Open it with the seal facing outward. It will launch 40 kunai. Each one approximately at the same strength as a jonin can throw one. Hana whistled and took the scroll. When we get back to Konoha I'd love to get some more of these. My clan favors close combat, having an alternative like this would be helpful. Sakura nodded and then joined the rest of her team, who moved at a swift pace toward the village. Break. The plan, like most plans Kakashi and his students made, was simple. Naruto would create a large amount of clones. Their primary objective would be to rescue the children. To avoid any rigged traps on the cages themselves, half of the clones would go with Sasuke and the other half would go with Kakashi. They each had a Sharingan which would easily detect most any kind of trap. Sakura and Naruto would stay together and confront the enemy shinobi. Kakashi sent a pair of his own shadow clones to the opposite side of the village to hunt down any who tried to flee. Each member of the team was also tasked with capturing at least one enemy shinobi alive. Their enemy had guards both of the civilian bandit and shinobi variety. None of them realized there were enemies within the village. Kakashi was an assassin and assassins were by nature highly stealthy. As Team 7's sensei he had naturally taught his students how to avoid being detected. The clones quickly butchered the guards. Most of them were civilian bandits, but the lone Chunin-level opponent who was out there was also butchered by a blindingly fast slash across the throat. Shinobi started to trickle out and the alarm was raised. Sasuke and Kakashi quickly disarmed the few traps that had been set. Most cages were not trapped and their occupants were quickly rescued by the clones. A group of 20 or so civilian-level opponents backed by a few Chunin-level shinobi charged at Naruto and Sakura. Civilian-level bandits could still be a threat to a shinobi. But bandits were never a threat to shinobi of Team 7's caliber. Naruto flashed through the hand seals and launched a futon, Daytopper, wind release, great breakthrough, into the mass of them. The damage was considerable. A few had broken necks and many of the others were severely bruised or had other broken bones. One of the Chunin began his own ninjutsu, but to the shock of his companions the Suiten, sweep and water release, water whip, lashed into his comrade, slicing through his torso and delivering a fatal wound. Sakura's genjutsu had taken hold and he readied the same jutsu against his comrade, who danced backward yelling at him that he was under a genjutsu. Naturally Sakura's control was skilled enough that she made it so that piece of sound was never actually heard by her victim. Naruto made a dozen more clones who charged after other shinobi who were drawn to the fight. They finished the still screaming Chunin and Sakura knocked out the one she had placed under a genjutsu. Naruto caught a memory from his clones. The Chunin they were fighting had already lost several to the clones, but they apparently had a couple of Jonin-level shinobi who were starting to fight back. One of whom was a massive man with a sword that was as large as Zabuza's. Naruto recalled him from one of the old bingo books. The man known as the Eighth Swordsman had been passed over for selection into the Kiri no Shinobugatana Shichininshu, 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist 3 times in favor of someone else. After the 3rd time he had left the village in a rage and became a missing nin. Naruto and Sakura drifted toward where the Jonin was fighting his clones. Once in range, Sakura tried to put him under a genjutsu, but to his credit he resisted the false images and sensations. Naruto sucked in air and used the seals for futon, Shinkugyoku wind release vacuum bullets, however instead of exhaling the deadly bullets drew his katana and dashed forward at near top speed. The large swordsman felt him coming and hastily parried the deadly strike. Naruto's strength shocked the man as his blade was pushed downward and away from his body. Naruto exhaled and sprayed the air bullets at point-blank range. The A-ranked missing nin showed fast reflexes for his bulk and managed to avoid being fatally injured. He may not have been fatally injured, but that only delayed his death for a moment. One bullet had clipped his shoulder, another took off his ear and a third had smashed into his ribs. After exhaling the vacuum bullets, Naruto had not stopped his assault. His katana shimmered with futon energy and struck at his opponent. The missing nin tried to get his massive cleaver-like blade into position, but the shock of his wound slowed his reaction and Naruto easily sliced the chakra-conducting blade through the man's chest. Resistance in that area ended after that. Some tried to run, but none of them were faster than Naruto's clones. One of the clones made sure to capture an enemy alive. A few moments later, Sasuke and Kakashi arrived on the scene, each with an unconscious nin being carried by Naruto clones. Kakashi did one last sweep around the village with his Sharingan. It's clear. Naruto have the clones carry the kids back to Hana. She's competent with medical ninjutsu. The children were not in great condition, but it could have been worse. It had only been a few days trapped in those cages, so they were all hungry. Dehydration was a factor as well, but that too could have been worse. It had rained the previous day and the children had awkwardly been able to drink some of the rainfall. Naruto was relieved that the kids would be physically okay, but the mental pain they suffered must have been terrible. They had seen the parents slaughtered. Then they had been left to die in cages. To slowly starve and thirst while sitting in their own waste must have been both terrifying and terribly degrading. Naruto made some clones to fan out for protection and then told Kakashi he needed some air. Sakura went after him. Naruto, wait. I can't be in there seeing their faces. How can anyone do this? They are just kids. Sakura could see tears leaking down from out of the Anbu mask that covered the young Jinchuriki. She pulled her own mask off and quietly said, "This world is full of evil. I hate killing, but if we didn't come here and kill them, those kids would still be suffering and then they would have died a slow lingering death. This is what makes all the blood on our hands worthwhile. They can live because of us. Hold on to that, Naruto." Naruto lowered his own mask and let it drop to the ground. Tears wet his cheeks. It was so hard, Sakura-chan. I was able to do it. Not a bit of the Kyuubi hatred leaked out in the village, but I heard a voice. It wanted me to kill. It wanted me to rip all of those missing nin to shreds. I almost couldn't stop it. I honestly don't know if it was the fox or my own voice. Sakura rushed forward and enveloped Naruto in a hug. It's okay, Naruto. You held it back. Naruto hugged Sakura back and whispered, "It was close, too close." Sakura gently pushed him away. "No, it wasn't. You didn't even leak any chakra. You're too hard on yourself. This would have pushed anyone to vengeance." Naruto looked at Sakura. She had said the words with utmost confidence. Her belief in him filled him with renewed self-confidence. In one of the most horrifying sights he had ever seen, he had kept a hold of the fox's chakra and didn't let a single red strand of it out. Sakura is right, I can do this. Naruto, being Naruto, was instantly as right as rain. And when Naruto's conviction and confidence was restored, his prankster heart was revealed. Kakashi had trained all of his students on deception, controlling body language and expressions. Naruto still tended to react first before controlling his body, but he was just as good as the next shinobi when not being reactive. Naruto's lip trembled. Ah, really? Do you really think I can do it? Sakura nodded again and Naruto moved to hug her saying, thank you, Sakura-chan. Sakura hugged her teammate back and then felt Naruto's hand slide down her backside and onto her posterior. Sakura's eyes grew wide and she shoved the now laughing Naruto away. You pervert. I'm trying to comfort you and you grab my. Sakura couldn't seem to get the words out of her mouth. She stalked back to the cave in angry huff. Kakashi had caught the whole scene and was laughing on the inside but wisely said nothing. He would have to talk to Naruto as that really was inappropriate behavior. Jiraiya was obviously to blame as he was proving to be a terrible role model. The poor boy probably thought groping women you liked was an acceptable form of courtship. Sakura was furious and Kakashi stopped her before entering. Two things, Sakura. 1. The children inside have been through hell. An angry face might scare some of them. 2. Remember Naruto looks up to Jiraiya. I'll talk to him and make sure there isn't a repeat occurrence. Sakura nodded tightly and sat down, allowing herself to calm down before re-entering the large part of the cave. They would be moving the kids back to the village after the Naruto clones removed all of the dead bodies and blood. They would wait for a couple of Chunin teams to arrive to take over and then they would head back to Konoha. Kakashi was proud of his team. Despite the horrible situation, none of them had lost their cool and violated orders. They had 4 captives and Kakashi was going to recommend Ibiki be the first interrogator. Inoiki has worked a lot of extra hours clearing all of the Jonin who had been given the distress seals. He really does deserve a break. Good thing we have other methods of interrogation. Break. Team 7 had returned to Konoha to resume their rapid response duties. The information from the captives was not particularly helpful outside of clearing the hidden mist village. The shinobi were all once part of the mist who had been independently contacted for a mission that provided S-rank pay. Attack a village, massacre and torture the residents. Wait until a significant force of shinobi arrived and sneak into water country. The plan was simple but effective. The shinobi would be very tempted to hunt down the monsters who had butchered their citizens. And if they crossed the border, the new Mizukage would have to respond or lose all credibility as a competent leader. War could have been sparked despite both the Hokage and the Mizukage not wanting it. If the Konoha shinobi didn't cross the border, war could still occur without careful diplomatic discussions. In the end, the rapid arrival of Team 7 foiled the plot. The perpetrators were punished and the interrogation absolved the hidden mist village. What they didn't learn was who actually hired the diverse band of missing nin. With nothing more to do, Kakashi continued to push his team in their training. Sakura kept her promise and gifted the Inuzuka clan with a 100 air pressurized kunai scrolls. With renewed confidence, Naruto began drawing more Kyuubi chakra and kept the rage and hate that came with it contained. He was close to mastering the third tail, which would then open up Sage training. In the next 2 months, Team 7 was called upon an additional 2 times. Their second mission proved a false alarm. The border guards thought a large group of shinobi from Kumo was attempting to enter into Hai no Kuni, Land of Fire. And while there was definitely a large group of Kumo shinobi, it was but a probing effort. Since none of them crossed the actual border, no conflict took place. Kakashi disliked the possible information the Cloud Nin had learned from the effort, but there was little that could be done. The third mission involved a conflict with Tanagaku no Soto village hidden in valleys. A team of 3 Chunin and Alba Yamashiro, a special Jonin, had been assigned to capture a noble who had been exiled from Hai no Kuni, Land of Fire, on the orders of the daimyo. The noble had disgraced himself with deals involving illicit drug traffickers. It was only after he relocated to Kawa no Kuni, Land of Rivers, that the true extent of his crimes was discovered. The noble had assassinated a number of rivals, and it was only later that his actions had come to light. Some of his trade rivals had been nobility themselves, and the deaths were inexcusable. The Hokage had tried to negotiate with Tanagaku, however they had been obstinate. Jiraiya was unwilling to wage war even if Konoha could have crushed the smaller village. Instead, he had ordered a team to infiltrate the country and assassinate the exiled noble. Team Alba had been sent and managed to cross the border without a problem. However, when they spied on their target, they learned he had a dozen shinobi and a score of samurai-trained soldiers. The term samurai-trained did not imply they held to the code of loyalty and ethics that the samurai had become known for. It meant that they could focus chakra into their weapons. Since they could mold chakra, they could typically move faster than civilians and had greater stamina. Generally they tended to fight at the level of mid to high genin, though there were exceptions. Alba didn't like the team's chances, but this was a high-profile mission. The mission request came from the feudal lord himself. Reluctantly he used the distress tag, and several hours later he was surprised to see 4 Anbu operatives before him. He didn't comment about the speed of their arrival and instead quickly broke down the situation. Kakashi considered having Sasuke complete the mission personally as training, but he held to his familiar adage, missions were not training. They were missions. While it was productive to allow subordinates an opportunity to formulate a plan, the potential success of the mission was paramount. In this case Kakashi chose to go by himself. He left Team 7 with Alba and personally infiltrated and carried out the assassination. The Chunin-level shinobi he had surrounded himself didn't even know he was there until after the deed was complete. Afterwards Alba's team and his team left the land of rivers without further incident. Tanagakure was in no position to do anything about the incursion. The easy incursion passed their borders, and a dozen Chunin guards also made him hush the details of what happened lest potential clients stop doing business with them. Sasuke had been disappointed by the lack of combat. They had responded to 3 distress signals and only one of them had any fighting. And that had been no real challenge. Sasuke didn't know it, but he was about to get his wish. Break. Hinata had been correct. Team 8 was to be used almost exclusively as a hunter team. They were excellent at tracking down missing shinobi. Kiba and Akamaru only needed the scent, and then there was no getting away. Hinata could detect almost any sort of ambush or trap their quarry could set up. Team 8 was good at what they did, so when Kasagakure, Hidden Grass Village, offered Konoha a mission for a premium to hunt down one of their missing nin, it was Kurenai's team that was selected. The mission was to hunt down a jonin that had stolen something extremely valuable to Kusa. The mission specifics did not go into detail. It could have been an artifact, a kinjutsu, information, or really anything. The priority was his capture and safe return to Kusa. The parameters allowed him to be injured but not maimed. The difficulty of the mission was A, but Kusa was offering S-rank pay. In addition, they would receive absolutely nothing if the missing nin was killed. The target's name was Mutsu. His skills showed that he was average in ninjutsu, skilled in taijutsu and lackluster in genjutsu. In short, he was the ideal target for Team 8. It was not an easy hunt, however. He was far from Kusa when they picked up the trail. Deep on the eastern side of Hai no Kuni, Fire Country, Kurenai's team caught up with him. The fight wasn't much of one. Kiba and Hinata charged in from opposite sides. Mutsu threw a hail of shuriken at Hinata and turned to face Kiba and Akamaru. Hinata easily deflected all of the projectiles and dashed forward. The missing nin missed Kiba completely due to the genjutsu he was under. Kurenai had opted for a more subtle approach which made her genjutsu harder to detect. With the easy opening, Kiba got in several good blows before Mutsu could break the genjutsu. Battered as he was an easy target for Hinata to finish off with Juken strikes. He collapsed to the ground with his chakra pathways blocked. Shino had been ready to have his swarm descend on him, but it was unnecessary. Instead, Shino attached the chakra-blocking manacles on him. Kiba had asked previously why they couldn't just seal him in a scroll, and he had received an impromptu lecture from Kurenai. You don't know much about fuinjutsu, do you? A dead shinobi can be sealed into a scroll easily. The dead don't have chakra. A living creature has chakra, and that will interfere with a storage scroll. The containment could break, or it could even kill the occupant. Kiba had flushed. How was I supposed to know? Putting criminals in storage scrolls is common in stories. Kurenai laughed softly. Kiba, you shouldn't trust every story. However, those stories are based on true events. Ha, you just said. Kurenai had held up her hand. A fuinjutsu master like Jiraiya-sama could develop a seal on the fly that takes into account the victim's chakra. Also, civilians and genin have very little chakra, which makes it mostly safe. I'm not a fuinjutsu specialist and our target isn't a genin, so we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Kiba, of course, was the person who was responsible for carrying him. His strength and stamina were highest on the team. They bound their victim and began their trek toward Kusa. It was only an hour or two in their journey that Hinata gasped. 2 shinobi are heading straight for us. One is very strong, the other. Hinata trailed off. She wasn't quite sure how to describe what she was seeing. The man with the triple-bladed scythe had the most ominous chakra she had ever seen. It wasn't powerful per se, it just looked wrong. Kurenai paused and veered course. Hinata reported they were following. She called for a halt. Let's see who it is. We are in our own lands. If they are enemies, we at least need to know about them. They picked their position and waited for the two figures to emerge. Kurenai stiffened as soon as she saw the black cloaks with red clouds. There was a standing flee on sight order for the Akatsuki. She signaled her team subtly. The first figure was a tall man with his face covered wearing a high tie with a line slashed through symbolizing his missing nin status from Takagakure Hidden Waterfall Village. If a missing nin blatantly wore their high tie like that, declaring for all the world their status as a missing shinobi, it meant they weren't afraid of enemies hunting them. His green eyes were unsettling and Kurenai had to suppress a shudder. The second figure was of lesser stature but had his weapon drawn and ready. Silver hair and purple eyes were an odd combination. The distinctive look made Kurenai recognize him from an old bingo book. The man was hidden and his bounty had already been collected years ago. Kurenai strained her memory trying to remember what his abilities were. All that she could remember was that he was a religious fanatic that had been wanted for starting a cult in no Kuni, land of hot water, that practiced human sacrifice. Why are you trailing our team and what are you doing in Fire Country? Hidden laughed and twirled his scythe. Jashin likes the pretty ones. Let me have her, Kakazu. Kakazu shook his head. Her bounty is pathetic. We might get something for that brat's eyes, but it isn't worth the effort. Bringing him back alive will net us far more. Kakazu turned to Kurenai. I don't want to risk damaging the merchandise. Give up your prize and we'll let you live. Kakazu flared his killing intent with a force that could be felt even half a mile away, where the real Kurenai and Team 8 were at that moment tree-hopping away from the scene. Kakazu blinked and then flushed his chakra, breaking the genjutsu. Hidden shrieked, detecting genjutsu is your job. Kakazu snarled, shut up. Kakazu was highly skilled at detecting genjutsu. He considered genjutsu one of the few possible ways he could be defeated. His Doton, Domu, Earth Release, Iron Skin made him all but impervious to physical attacks. His ninjutsu with his hearts released was second to none. His battle experience and intelligence were also factors he had considered when it came to his abilities. But genjutsu, that was a danger. With it he couldn't activate his Iron Skin. With it he couldn't use his formidable ninjutsu. Kakazu despised weakness and had trained to detect and break genjutsu for decades. To be caught by some relatively no-name shinobi was humiliating. If the Kunoichi had come closer and actually tried to attack, he would have detected it far sooner. If he hadn't blatantly underestimated her, he probably also would have seen through it. Nonetheless, he would keep all of his senses at full alert. She would not be able to use the same trick twice, not against a shinobi of his stature. Team 8 didn't have much of a lead on the Nukanen. It was fortunate for them that, being trained as a tracker squad, each of them had worked on their tree hopping and overland speed. On the downside, none of them were as swift or had as much chakra to burn as their pursuers. Kiba was going strong for now, but eventually the extra weight of their captive would begin to tire him. Kurenai instructed her team to quickly lay traps as they fled as she destroyed the Fuinjutsu distress seal. Kurenai dropped a hasty genjutsu to cover the explosive seals planted on likely tree branches to push off of. Shino and Hinata strung ninja wire between the two of them and the trees. Unlikely to cause any real harm, but it could slow them a step or two. Kiba landed briefly on the ground and quickly used the hand seals to bring up an earth clone. After doing so, he quickly picked up Mutsu and chased after the rest of his team. Hinata watched as the two reached the first of their traps. The ninja wire was detected and either avoided or simply cut down with one sweep of the scythe. The missing nin from Takagakure shouted a warning to his partner. Hidden merely laughed and continued on, only to hit the explosive tag on the tree limb that was hidden under Kurenai's genjutsu. The explosion tore his foot to shreds and he rolled onto the ground. Fuck them. Divine judgment will come down on these heathens. Wait for me. Hinata was too far away to hear the words, but she could read lips and the Byakugan could make out most of it. Kakazu slowed for a moment while Hidden picked himself up. Hinata was shocked that in less than a minute Hidden's foot had completed healed. She relayed the information to Kurenai. Kurenai was getting extremely worried. Regeneration was a powerful tool. It was one of the reasons that Tsunade of the Sannin was so feared. She urged her team to move faster. The pair continued their hunt. When they came within sight of the Kiba mud clone, he opened the scroll the real Kiba had given it. The scroll opened and 36 kunai lashed out at the two pursuing shinobi. Hidden really didn't need to deflect them, but did so anyway, easily manipulating his scythe to scatter all of the offending projectiles. Kakazu merely hardened his skin and suffered only a few pockmarks in his Akatsuki uniform. Hidden charged at the mud clone, twirling his scythe as he moved. The Kiba clone dodged backward and barely avoided being hit. Hidden was much faster than the clone. Realizing this, the clone decided to use its remaining chakra before being ripped to pieces anyway. Doton, Doru Tiger, Earth Release, Earth Flow River. The ground beneath Hidden transformed into mud, but he was too quick to be caught in the attack. Instead, his scythe was already slashing horizontally, ripping into Kiba's mud clone. Between the jutsu and the scythe ripping through its body, the clone collapsed. Damn it. Cowards. Hidden was furious at their tricks. Kakazu ignored his partner's antics and continued chasing teammate, carefully probing forward with his senses to ensure another genjutsu did not snare him. Hinata again relayed the information. Their stalling tactics were not proving to be effective. The young Hyuga heiress did some quick calculation in her head. At the current speed without distractions, the enemy would catch up in less than 15 minutes. Their arsenal of tricks was finite too. Kiba couldn't make many mud clones and they were running low on ninja wire, explosive tags and other trap-making items. While she thought about the darkening chances of getting away, Shino instructed a third of his allies to form a bug clone. Shino dropped the last of his explosive tags at the feet of the clone. These had to be manually activated, so he would be depending on Hinata to signal him when the time was right to trigger them. When Hidden spotted what he thought was one of his targets, he gave a whoop and veered off. Kakazu snarled, "Idiot, it's a distraction. Keep moving." Hidden glowered at his partner but listened to him. The Kikaichu made-up clone desperately tried to chase, but the bugs were not fast enough. Hinata shook her head. A third of Shino's swarm was now hopelessly behind their enemies and would unlikely be able to make it to the fight in time to change anything. Hinata spoke up, "Kurenai-sensei, they are going to catch up to us soon. Should we let the prisoner go?" Kiba spoke up, "What? No way. The village will think we are cowards. We should turn and fight them, it's 5-on-2. Kurenai thought about the ramifications of what could happen. If they let the prisoner go, the leaf would look weak in the eyes of anyone who knew about the mission. Kusa wanted the prisoner alive. It was possible the Akatsuki were also going to take the prisoner back to the hidden grass village. Of course, it was also possible that someone else wanted to interrogate the prisoner. Given that Kusa was offering S-rank pay, whatever Mutsu had stolen must be important. Relations between Kusa and the Leaf could quickly sour if they just gave up on the mission. The Genjutsu mistress frowned thoughtfully. This scenario was similar to Tsukumo Hitaki's dilemma. On the one hand, she could ensure her comrades' survival or she could risk her students' lives to attempt to complete the mission. Tsukumo had chosen the lives of his comrades and had been ostracized for it. A multiple of variables swam through her mind as her team of Chunin continued to race away from the threat. "I won't let my team die for this mission, but I won't give up without a fight. Kiba, in a few minutes I need you to make a pair of Earth clones. Shino, use your Kikaichu to create another bug clone. Head out at top speed toward Konoha. Hinata, rest a bit at the edge of your Byakugan vision and then catch up to the team and report what happened. If I can, I'll catch up." She paused for a lingering moment. "If they catch up to you despite what I'm planning to do, give them the prisoner." The swarm around Shino buzzed in agitation. Shino was the first on the team to speak up, a rarity given that Kiba was his teammate. "Sensei, this is illogical. We have a better chance if we stay together. We aren't going to leave you behind," Kiba shouted. Akamaru also barked, showing his support. "Sensei," Hinata trailed off. Kurenai looked at her team, her very first genin team, who were now all Chunin. She loved their loyalty, but this was the way it had to be. "My plan is to slow them down and lead them away from your flight path. They don't want me, I'm a secondary objective at best." They voiced additional objections, but Kurenai was firm. "You are shinobi of the Konohagakure. I cherish the loyalty you have, but now I need you to obey my orders." Kiba growled but dropped to the ground and made the 2 Earth clones. His chakra reserves were getting low. Having to make clones that could fight and constantly use chakra to push himself at top speed while carrying a shinobi was stressing even his stamina. He handed the clones each one of Sakura's kunai scrolls. Shino likewise had his allies form into another bug clone. Hinata used the last of the ninja wire and all but one of her exploding tags to trap the easiest ways around Kurenai's position. "Now go, you don't have time to waste," Kurenai ordered. Kiba hoisted Mutsu and quickly left before his sensei and teammates could see the hot tears in his eyes. Shino bowed his head acknowledging Kurenai's actions. Hinata forcefully took control of her body and refused to show weakness just like Kakashi taught her. Kurenai-sensei, I know you sometimes think you don't live up to the other Jonin like Kakashi, Guy or Asuma, but you're wrong. You're a strong Kunoichi and I wouldn't trade you for any of them. Please don't die. And with that Hinata left Kurenai alone with the clones. Team 7 raced toward the eastern portion of their nation. Naruto had informed them that it was Team 8 that was in trouble and they were determined to get there in time. Kakashi was actually concerned about what Team 8 must have encountered. He had overseen their training and their teamwork was impressive. Team 8 was essentially impervious to ambushes, which meant they had run across shinobi who in an open fight were just plain stronger. Kakashi advised Naruto, make a few clones every 50 miles. We need to cast a wide net. Team 8's target would have been on the move. Teams on long missions would check in at villages and send messenger hawks back to their home village. Unless of course the mission was covered. This meant that Team 7 had a rough idea where Team 8 should be. Naruto did as instructed and poured on the speed. Everyone was worried about Team 8. Even Sasuke was concerned, however he was also excited at the prospect of facing a real foe. All of them hoped they would make it in time. Break asterisk. As soon as Hiden and Kakuzu appeared, Kurenai weaved a genjutsu that showed dozens of kunai raining down on them all with explosive tags. She carefully observed how Hiden laughed and lashed out at the foe projectiles. Kakuzu didn't flinch in the slightest. The loud one will have to be my target, she thought to herself. The bug clone leapt at Hiden, who scythed through it easily. Since they were actually made up of Kikaichu, it didn't hurt more than a couple of them. The rest swarmed around the scythe wielder and attempted to drain him of his chakra. They succeeded in draining some chakra but then promptly died, their insect bodies twitching madly. Kakuzu charged at Kurenai, moving at an impressive speed. One of the Kiba mud clones used Doton, Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu Earth style, Headhunter Jutsu, to try to drag him into the ground. Kakuzu was too fast and when he felt the chakra gather he simply avoided the upthrust hands. Kurenai used the body substitution jutsu to replace her body with a log. The log came from where the mud clone had risen from the earth. The red-eyed Jonin blurred through hand seals and used another genjutsu. She targeted Hiden, who was obviously less adept at detecting it. The vision that clouded his eyes inverted her and Kakuzu's positions. Hiden slashed forward at Kakuzu, who dodged the sudden strike. Break the genjutsu, Kakuzu's deep voice barked at Hiden. Kurenai launched a real kunai with an explosive tag at Kakuzu's back as he tried to dodge the speedy scythe. The missing nin was hit by it, blasting part of his clothing away. His skin was unmarred underneath it. Kakuzu dodged another strike and then placed his palm on Hiden and forcefully disrupted the genjutsu with his own chakra. Hiden looked stupidly around for a moment. Hey, sorry about that. Kurenai backed away, heading north, away from the rest of her team. Hiden immediately charged after her. She used Magen, Jubaku Satsu, demonic illusion, tree binding death to pin him in place, while the Kiba clone used the Fuinjutsu scroll to launch kunai in a hail of death. Hiden was struck by at least 20 kunai. His upper torso was riddled with them, but the pain allowed the genjutsu to be broken. Hell, that hurts, I'm going to kill all of you. Kakuzu ignored his partner's complaints and raced toward Kurenai. Again, Kurenai used the replacement jutsu to try to get away, however Kakuzu had his senses attuned to her chakra and knew instantly where she was going. He used a shunshin to appear right in front of her and coated his arm with earth chakra, delivering a vicious punch toward her chest. Kurenai tried to twist away, but Kakuzu was faster and nailed her across the shoulder. She gave a grunt of pain and rolled with the blow. Kakuzu came on and launched a quick kick to the side. Not able to dodge this one at all, Kurenai blocked with her arm and felt it break. She allowed the blow to send her flying into the foliage. Before Kakuzu could pursue, both mud clones launched a quick Gatsuga, fang over fang, at Kakuzu. Their bodies rotating at incredible speeds, and the drilling power struck Kakuzu like a ton of bricks. Due to Kakuzu's earth jutsu that protected his body from physical attacks, he was not harmed. However, the sheer momentum of the attack launched him off his feet and slammed him into a nearby tree. The two mud clones made ready to continue the attack, but Kakuzu was too swift in his recovery. Both of his arms were launched from his body by a black string-like substance that was under his skin. His two hands clutched both mud clones by the throat and crushed them, causing the mud to collapse. Since Hiden had primarily been hit in the torso, his body was still able to move well enough even while it was healing. He raced toward the direction Kurenai had fallen but couldn't find her. He put his hands together and said, Kai. However, he still couldn't find her. Kakuzu had retracted his arms and probed with his senses. The Jonin was hiding somewhere, but she was suppressing her chakras to not be detected. Both Akatsuki members looked around for a few moments. Kakuzu started to say, we should, before he was cut off by a humongous fireball raining down on the two of them from the sky. Kakuzu could feel the heat, smell the burning air, hear the roaring fire and see its massive size. For just a split second he believed it was real. In that split second Kurenai dashed away again heading north. Hiden screamed for a few moments before he too broke off the genjutsu. The Jonin was not their target, but Kakuzu was getting extremely angry. His past rages had been legendary, often leaving him with a dead partner. His anger was great enough to ignore for the time being the path that led to higher profits. He pushed chakra into his feet and chased after the wounded Leaf Kunoiki. Hiden followed in his wake. Kurenai felt some small measure of triumph as the two S-class nin began chasing her in the opposite direction of her team. Break. Hinata's eyes saw the battle. Kurenai's self-appointed task had been successfully, and she was now drawing the enemy shinobi away from the rest of the team. She also saw that she was wounded. As her sensei ran, she kept one arm tight to her body. If the enemy ninja caught up with her, Kurenai would stand no chance. Hinata's heartbeat threatened to override her control. Breathing calmly, she forced her pulse to slow down. Every shred of chakra she had may be needed before the day was out, and she couldn't afford to waste a single bit of it. Break. Kurenai sprinted at top speed, freely using every ounce of her chakra control to give just the right push off the ground to go just a bit faster. The Jonin swallowed a soldier pill to replenish the chakra she had used early in the chase and battle. She tossed Makebishi behind her, though she doubted it would do much. But even a tiny deviation in her opponent's rhythm could give her another inch, another foot and another second. Despite her all-out sprint, her enemies were gaining on her. But they weren't gained on her as fast as before. Without her students with her, she was able to go faster. And each step she took in the opposite direction would give her team more time to get away. It was better than standing still and fighting, since the Akatsuki were making negative progress. Kakuzu's hearts were pumping with rage. He couldn't believe an inferior shinobi was delaying him and his partner like this. Step by step they drew closer and closer. Kurenai forced her trembling muscles to push her onward. They were 50 feet away. Kurenai pushed more chakra than needed into her feet in order to leap into the air, twist her body around and toss several shuriken one-handed at her enemies. She completed the twist and landed back on her feet, keeping her rhythm. The shuriken had been aimed at the eyes. Kakuzu merely titled his head while Hiden blocked it with the scythe. You're about to be sacrificed to Lord Jashin. Are you afraid? Tell me. Kakuzu looked at his partner. We don't have time for your ritual, save it for the others. Kurenai glanced behind her. It was now only 40 feet. Kurenai had to focus on the battle, but thoughts came unbidden to her mind. How would Asuma take her death? They had grown closer together recently. They had even started talking about having a family. 30 feet. 20 feet. She thought about her team. Would Hinata remain the Hyuga heiress, or would she be branded like her cousin Neji? Would Kiba sink back into a depression now that his other parental figure was gone? Would Shino close himself from social situations even more? They were Chunin now and not Genin. It wasn't her responsibility, but she cared. What would become of them? 10 feet. Hiden launched his scythe at her legs. Kurenai dodged to the side, breaking her stride and allowing Kakuzu to catch up. His torn clothing revealed an arm whose skin was turned dark and earth-like as it raced for her. Instead of attempting to block the attack, she shoved it aside at an angle, thankful that she had taken Kakashi's advice and worked on her taijutsu. The deflection allowed her time to jump off the ground and push off of Kakuzu using chakra channeled to the soles of her feet. In mid-air she flashed through the hand seals despite the broken arm for another genjutsu designed to blind. Hiden ruthlessly broke the genjutsu and Kakuzu simply didn't let it affect him. Kurenai landed on the ground and immediately had to dodge Hiden's attack. She dropped a smoke grenade onto the ground and suppressed her chakra. Hiden swiped where he thought she would be but missed. Kakuzu positioned himself outside of the smoke, ready to strike regardless of the direction she went. She burst through the smoke only to be hit by Kakuzu's flying arm that had become detached. The blow caught her square in the face and bloodied her nose. Kakazu sent the other arm flying and Kurenai rolled out of the way only for Hidden to strike down with his scythe. Kurenai used her kunai to intercept the descending blade, trying to deflect it away. Hidden's strength was superior and the angle was wrong. Kurenai managed to push the blade away slightly, but it still stabbed into her shoulder, pinning her to the ground. Kakazu was then there as well, and one earth-colored arm shoved down on her neck, choking her. He brought his face down next to Kurenai's and said, "You piece of trash, I am etching the faces of your pathetic team in my memory. I will hunt each and every one of them down and kill them." Kurenai struggled against his superior strength as he spoke, but it was futile. He allowed the Kunoichi one last moment to dwell on the threat to her teammates before casually snapping her neck. He stood up and growled, "They have an even larger lead on us now, but there is no way they can make it to Konoha in time. Let's go." Hidden licked his scythe. "Fine, but when we catch up to them, one of them will be sacrificed to Jashin." Kakazu nodded and the two took up the chase again. Break asterisk. Despite Kakashi's training, Hinata freely let tears course down her face. Kurenai had been her mentor and a parent figure. Yes, she was a shinobi and had done her duty by turning Hinata into a shinobi that could kill for the village, but she had done more than that. She had cared for her and comforted her through her trials. She had deserved better than to die like she had. Hinata jumped from tree to tree, gaining on Kiba and Shino. Kiba and Shino weren't going top speed. That was okay because not even shinobi could go at their absolute fastest pace for long. Instead, they were traveling at a brisk pace, which allowed Hinata the chance to catch up. "We have to run faster. Go." Kiba asked, "What happened to Kurenai-sensei?" Hinata looked down. "Tell me what happened, damn it." Hinata responded, "She's dead. I'm sorry, but we must hurry, they are still chasing us." Kiba growled, halfway tempted to turn around and avenge his sensei. His grip tightened on the Kusa shinobi who had gotten him into this mess, and he briefly considered killing the bastard. He didn't, because that would be disgracing Kurenai's memory and making her sacrifice pointless. But it was tempting. They traveled swiftly, but the Akatsuki was rapidly closing the distance. The option of turning around and fighting was gone. They were all low on chakra from the long chase. Hope was beginning to fade when a Konoha Anbu arrived. Kiba sniffed the air. Naruto. It wasn't actually Naruto, of course, but one of the clones he had sent out. "Report quickly so I can dispel and guide the rest of my squad here." Hinata spoke mechanically. "Two Akatsuki are chasing us. Kurenai-sensei is dead. The one with the scythe can regenerate and the other one is almost impervious to harm. Both are S-classed. They are 15 minutes behind us." The clone was shocked to hear of Kurenai's death, but quickly told the remnants of Team 8 to alter their course slightly so their team can intercept. After passing along the instructions, the clone dissipated and the real Naruto jerked up. "Damn it. Kurenai-sensei is dead and we need to intercept two S-ranked Akatsuki." Sasuke felt a surge of adrenaline rocket through his body. "Is one of them Itachi?" Naruto shook his head. "No, I only got a brief description, but neither of them is Itachi." Kakashi gave instructions. "First let the clones engage. We need to learn what they can do. Naruto, I want a lot of wind jutsu from your clones thrown out that will allow Sasuke and my clones a distraction so we can strike. Sakura, time your genjutsu to distract. Don't assume they will fall for it." "Hi Kakashi-sensei," the team intoned as they raced into position. Upon meeting up with the exhausted Team 8, Naruto made a dozen clones to escort them back to Konoha. Hinata stopped for a moment. "Naruto-kun, please be careful." Naruto gave her a thumbs up and then brought up 40 clones that he arrayed in the trees. Sasuke and Kakashi each made a pair of clones that hid their chakra signature and moved out of sight. They had all been briefed about the Akatsuki. They were an organization whose goals were not clear. The organization seemed to be made up of exclusively powerful missing nin that had reputations that rivaled the Kage of the 5 major hidden villages. Break asterisk. Kakazu felt the chakra signatures ahead. Looks like the brats found some backup. Good. More sacrifices for Jashin. 40 Anbu attired figures were in the trees. Kakazu's practiced eye saw the way each of them moved in a similar fashion and came to the conclusion they were clones. The first 4 Naruto clones attacked with Futon, Daytopper, Wind Release, Great Breakthrough. Kakazu quickly dodged out of the way while Hidden let out a whoop and let the wind smash him back into the trees. Half a dozen clones went right and left seeking to surround the pair. 3 other Naruto clones let loose with Futon, Shinkugyoku, Wind Release vacuum bullets aimed at Kakazu. Kakazu hardened his skin with Doton, Domu Earth Release, Iron Skin. The air bullets plinked through his robes and bounced off his toughened skin. Other Naruto clones raced after Hiden. Kakazu knew he was not facing amateurs. The jutsu were being fired off with precision and power. A couple of clones raced toward him drawing katanas. He wasn't concerned with dodging attacks. With his iron skin, no physical attack could harm him. He blocked the first strike and was surprised by the force behind the blow. Nothing scratched his skin, but he was knocked off balance by the strike. He struck back and the clone dodged. It could not afford to block an attack because it would dissipate. With that advantage and Kakazu's skill in taijutsu, he quickly finished off the two clones, only for another pair of clones to launch more wind jutsu at him. He felt another chakra signature flash next to Hiden and he called out a warning that was a moment too late. Hiden had been knocked back by the initial futon jutsu. After he got up, another ABNU masked shinobi pushed a reikiri through his heart. Hiden shoved his scythe backwards and managed to nick the clone, causing it to dissipate. Fuck, that hurt. Hiden clutched the hole in his chest. His body would heal, but even he would fight less effectively with a giant hole in his chest. Kakazu needed to take the fight seriously, and in a moment he allowed his hearts to erupt out from his back. When using his most powerful techniques, he had to form the hand signs to unleash the jutsu from the corresponding heart. However, for techniques not as strong, the hearts could act independently. First, he needed to clear the clones and find his real opponents. And for that he used futon, Akatsuki wind release, pressure damage. The resulting explosion of air shattered trees and destroyed dozens of clones. Only a few managed to get away from the flying debris and sheer destructive power of the concentrated wind. Only a second later, another 40 clones appeared and countered with their own attacks. Kakazu's fire heart used Kaiten jutsu, turning back the wind jutsu on the clones. Another figure, this one taller than the futon-wielding clones, moved in close. Kakazu was startled by his opponent's speed. Lighting covered the man's hand as it raced for him. Raiten attacks were one of the few chakra types that could actually get past his iron skin. Kakazu dodged away from the deadly jutsu and flipped through the hand seals for Raiten, Gian, lightning release, false darkness. The deadly bolt of lightning obliterated a path through the clone, however the clone had instantly used the substitution technique and came at Kakazu again. Yet another attacker presented itself, hurling slivers of lighting in the shape of senbon at his masks. His masks dodged the attacks, but it was a close thing. The clone gathered lightning in its fist and charged. Behind Kakazu he could feel additional clones of the futon user racing for him. Kakazu hardened his skin again, the inevitable katana strike, and prepared to dodge the chidori. The chidori crackled with pent-up energy and Kakazu again evaded the attack and accepted the katana attack to his backside. The problem was at the last second one of the clones at his back used the substitution technique to change places with the chidori-wielding clone. In a split second Kakazu sensed the danger and twisted his body. The clone with the aid of the Sharingan compensated but didn't quite get a strike onto his opponent's heart. However, the lightning current did deaden a good portion of the black strings that made up his internal body. In response, Kakazu flung his dark innards in all directions. A shadow clone only needed to be grazed in order to be defeated, so this popped the chidori-wielding clone as well as the Naruto clones around him. He spared a glance to where Hiden was and stiffened in dismay. Somehow Hiden had been carved up like a turkey. Kakazu could sense there was a lingering chakra signature around him, which meant the fool had been hit with another genjutsu. And that had led to a half dozen of the futon user's clones to slice him into a multitude of pieces. If Kakazu had time he could stitch Hiden back together, but his opponents were not letting up. The air became saturated with kunai as the clones used the same fuinjutsu scrolls as the mud clones had earlier. His masks were sturdy enough to take a kunai, but they didn't have the benefit of his Doton, Domu, Earth Release, Iron Skin. Enough hits could shatter them. Fortunately for Kakazu, they were nimble and could even make gaps in the black threads to allow the kunai to pass through them. Kakazu again thinned out the area with futon, Akatsuki wind release, pressure damage, and yet again more clones sprang to take the place of the ones dissipated. Some of these clones rushed his masks with their katanas. His hearts countered with independent low-level jutsu. Lighting strikes, blasts of water, miniature fireballs and wind bullets were all used to stop the clones from getting in close. The fight taxed even Kakazu's intellect as clones, projectiles and jutsu filled the air. He felt a tendril of a genjutsu attempt to disorient him within the chaos, but he ruthlessly released the effect. A clone slashed at him and he killed it quickly with his black threads only for it to explode with the strength of multiple explosive seals. Hot metal shrapnel also pelted the area of the explosion. Luckily for Kakuzu, his iron skin was purely reflexive from his long years of using it. Still, the explosion rocked him backwards. Pillars rose up around where he landed and he quickly identified the jutsu as Raiten, Shichu Shibari, lighting release, 4-pillar bind. His body arced as electricity froze his muscles. He mentally directed the futon heart to blast the air with futon, Atsugai wind release, pressure damage which would break the Raiten jutsu but not do him any harm. The plan was successful, however, with the futon mask's attention directed elsewhere. Another figure with a blade coated in chakra sliced through the mask like a hot knife through butter. Kakuzu figured this was the real Anbu agent and he had been responsible for all the clones. He directed his Raiten heart to let loose with Raiten, Gian, lightning release, false darkness, but 2 clones interfered by unleashing lighting's opposite element via the C-ranked futon, Daytopper, wind release, great breakthrough. False darkness was a stronger attack, however wind naturally defeated lightning. Lightning Senbon forced Kakuzu to dodge away right into the arms of an apparent taijutsu specialist. Kakuzu wasn't worried about getting hit with physical attacks, but he wasn't able to land a solid blow either. Unlike his kick against the genjutsu woman, his opponent could block his attacks and not suffer broken bones. Again, a genjutsu tried to invade his chakra network and he flooded it out. In that same instant, his opponent grabbed his arm, and flipped through one-handed seals and coated his hand with lightning. Kakuzu broke the grab and danced away from the blow of the lightning chakra only for it to extend out and smash into his chest from 10 feet away. "I call that one Chidori Iso, Chidori spear," a smug voice told him. Kakuzu collapsed on the ground. His hearts knew what to do and the Raiten one blasted lightning at the one who had speared him. The Anbu masked shinobi dodged away and the Suiten mask jumped into Kakuzu's body. The Kaiten mask burned a circle around Kakuzu's body, keeping back any opponents. Kakuzu's heart began pumping chakra through his frame again just in time to see the chakra-conductive katana wielder flash through the hand's seal for a summoning. In a flash he used the body substitution technique to escape the arrival of a gigantic toad. The massive magenta-colored beast would have pulverized his body and his heart if it had come down on him. For the first time in a very long time, Kakuzu felt fear. 2 of his hearts were destroyed, leaving the Raiten and Kaiten-natured hearts. The Suiten heart was inside his chest. "I'll bit your throats out, let me go, heathens." Kakuzu burned with rage at how easily his partner had been taken down. If he had someone like Sasori with all his puppets or even Deidre with his explosions, he wouldn't be in this mess. The massive toad wielded a Sasumata that was swung with vicious speed at his Kaiten mask. Kakuzu wanted to get rid of the massive create as fast as possible. The mask danced backward and then Kakuzu flashed through the hand seals for Kaiten, Zukoku, fire release, intelligent hard work. A roar of fire screamed toward the massive toad. The futon using shinobi jumped right into its path and crossed his arms. Kakuzu's green eyes widened in shock. The jutsu just stopped as it connected with the Anbu operative. Bits of fire leaked past it since the fireball was quite large, but it wasn't enough to cause significant harm to the toad. What kind of defense is that? This is impossible. The leaf shinobi wasn't done quite yet and threw a trio of chakra-laced kunai directly at the mask. The mask dodged the first 2 but was struck square in the center with the third. It cracked instantly and the black threads turned to slush. His Raiten-focused heart was busy frying clones as they swarmed around him. Kakuzu had yet to draw blood on any of his opponents. Disgusted with his failure, he used the shunshin to get some distance and began to sprint away. Clones chased after him. The irony of what was happening was lost on him. Just a couple of hours earlier he had chased an outclassed shinobi to her death and now the same was happening in reverse. He felt his Raiten heart become crushed and he pumped chakra into his feet to gain distance. Yet another shinobi appeared before him, hands already moving for a jutsu. Kakuzu shifted to the right hoping to dodge the attack, but his opponent either guessed or sensed the direction he was going to and compensated. Reiju Hashiri no Jutsu, lightning beast running technique, was used and in Kakuzu's eyes he saw a massive canine creature speed out from his adversary's hands and close the distance to him in a fraction of a second. The jutsu electrocuted every fiber of his body, paralyzing his nerve endings, chakra pathway and ability to think. A half-second later a fistful of lighting crashed into his chest and stilled his final heart. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.